Very much. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Just getting things hooked up for our Facebook friends and YouTube Live people. Good. All is good there. And give me just 1 moment and we will get started. All right. There we go. Okay. Thank you all very much for attending today. Uh, my webinar, How to Boost Your Credit Score 60 Points in 60 Days in Today's Environment, 2025. So, this is a follow-up webinar to ones that I do during the week. Typically, every other Wednesday at 7 o'clock, I tend to do webinars teaching people how to purchase with very little money out of pocket, tapping into the different down payment assistance programs and grants that are currently available throughout the country. So, no matter what market you're in, there are down payment assistance programs and grants throughout the US. I find that they just don't get a lot of attention. So, my mission is to try to make those programs available to everyone. So, if you are looking to purchase a home and you're a first time home buyer or a renter, reach out to me. Always happy to connect you with as much money out there as possible. So, most of the people that I work with are able to purchase a home with just a few $1,000s out of pocket. So, I always tell people the money for me is actually the easy part. So, don't get caught up in the myth that you need a lot of money to buy a house. If you have a job and the credit, the money part actually is fairly easy for me. So, always reach out if you have any questions. You can always book a call too. If you're on YouTube, go into the comments area. You'll typically see a link to my calendar. Same with Facebook, or I'll give you my phone number later in this webinar as well. So let's dive into things. Who is today for? Well, today is for anyone out there who has credit scores in that 5 to 600 range. We're going to give you the tools today to get a quick bounce in your score and get them up where they need to be. We actually have programs available to cover your down payment for credit scores above a 580 right now. Or if you don't have any credit scores, there are a couple of programs that will work with no credit scores. We're going to show you how we can actually get credit scores generated, maybe develop some alternative lines of credit that are sometimes required by lenders to get things done, and how to deal with some of the big issues that tend to follow people. Recent bankruptcies, repossessions, collections, those are all things that we're going to cover today and show you how to handle them and what kind of timelines it takes to put those in your rear view mirror. And just anyone that wants to understand the mortgage industry and how credit applies and what kind of hurdles that are out there. So, with that being said, why? Why do I do this program? Well, I find that there's a lot of misinformation out there for people as far as how to handle credit, how to get a quick bounce in your credit scores, what to pay off, what not to pay off. That coupled along with the rental market. The rental market is in such rough shape right now that I find that there's just not a lot of accurate information out there as far as how to get out of the rental market. And sometimes people think that they're just stuck there. And nothing could be further from the truth. Whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, I have a blueprint and timeline to get people into home ownership. And like I said, I'm here for the duration. So I also find that a lot of people are overpaying for credit unnecessarily. So there are several tools that we're going to make you aware of today that can get a quick bounce in your score and maybe get you out of paying some of those high interest rates for auto loans. Right now, the used car market, the auto loan interest rates are just, they're insane right now, as well as the credit card interest rates. So now my goal today is to get your credit score up 60 points in 60 days, help you identify areas on your credit that you can make changes today and get a quick impact on your credit score. Also, help you add new credit if needed, and set up some reasonable goals and a predictable, successful timeline to get things done. All right. With that being said, let's get into the mortgage industry. How does credit apply in the mortgage world, and what do they look at? So, there are actually numerous credit bureaus out there. There's still what we call the big three credit bureaus: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Now, in the mortgage world, at least the programs that I tend to help connect people with, they are going to look at your middle credit score. So if you have a score that's 580, 600, and then 700, they're going to choose that 600. They're not going to average them. They're not going to take the median. They're going to take that middle credit score. And the credit scores that they use are the FICO scoring models, the FICO 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's crucial that you know that, because sometimes when we go out to some of the free sites, Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Experian, some of those credit scores they use different algorithms. And not that they're wrong, it's just that they're not the ones that they use in the mortgage world. So I still think that those platforms are great. They give valuable information. There's lots of data that we can harvest from those to help coach you to get your credit score where you'd like it to be. So with that being said, it's good to use those platforms. And so I always tell people, schedule calls with me, have those platforms up, and we can help determine what are some of the quick ways to get a quick bounce in your score. Now, in the mortgage world, we really want to get your scores up above a 640. That opens up some opportunities in my world. If it's above 670, 680, boy, there's no end to the amount of down payment assistance programs and grants that are available. Not everybody has that ability, but if your scores are above 580, we have some options currently. So keep in mind that most creditors on your credit report are only going to report to one or two bureaus. So if you have a Toyota Motor Credit, chances are they're only going to report to two of the three credit bureaus. And the reason that is, not all the creditors actually have to pay to furnish that information to the credit bureaus. So it's rare that they will report that information to all three. Some of the tools that I'm going to share with you today will report to all three. That's why they take the middle score. Okay. So we're going to give you some tools today and help you isolate different things on your credit that are going to give you some opportunities for a quick spike on your middle and highest credit score. So remember, I said they're going to focus on that middle credit score. So obviously the middle and the highest one have to be above the threshold for whatever program we're looking at. Next, let's see what goes into a credit score. So credit scores are made up of several things. Payment history is the big thing. So 35% of what goes into your credit score is based on your payment history. So any late payments within the last 12 months hit you the hardest. The most recent ones, anything in the past 30, 60, 90 days, that's going to hit you the hardest. Once you're past that 90-day window, you're going to start to get a little lift. It takes about a year for all of that to play out and your scores to possibly get back to where they once were. So recent late payments do hit you the hardest. If you do have some late payments, it never hurts to call the creditor. And if it was an isolated incident, remind them of that. Hey, I've never been late before. I'm applying for a mortgage. This is inhibiting me from getting a mortgage. Can you remove it? Oddly enough, about 25% of the time, if you get a sympathetic ear on the other end of the line, they may work with you and they may remove it. So if they don't, then politely ask, hey, can I speak with your supervisor? And again, let them know, hey, I'm applying for a mortgage, didn't realize this was late, isolated incident, any chance you could possibly remove this? Like I said, it's successful maybe about 20, 25% of the time. Sometimes if you have 60-day lates, hey, maybe they'll roll that back to a 30-day late so it's not as severe, okay? The other thing that I tell people is, and I'm going to say this a few times today, please do not pay off your collection accounts blindly. I'm going to give you some do's and some don'ts with regards to collection accounts shortly, but I just want to hammer that point home. Now, what else that goes into your credit report is credit utilization. And what that is the amount that you owe on credit cards in relationship to where the limit is. So if you have a credit card with $1,000 limit and you owe 500, that's a 50% utilization. Ideally, we want to get those credit utilizations down under 30%. One thing that I'm a firm believer in is you want to have a slight balance on them. Sometimes you'll get lenders that'll say, pay it down to zero. I have found that if you pay your credit cards down and leave a little balance of maybe $10, you're going to get a little bit higher of a bounce than if it goes down to zero. So not quite sure why that is, but when it comes to getting a loan and some of the down payment assistance programs and grants that I connect people with, 1 point can make a world of difference. So for example, 600, if a program says your credit score's got to be at 600, 599, you're out. There's no negotiations. So that $10 balance can make a difference. Okay, so it is a game of inches when you think about it. The next thing, length of credit history. Okay, so if you have some old credit cards out there, do not close them. Okay, if you close them, you're going to lose a trade line, which may affect our approval process. Also, your credit scores can possibly go down when you close accounts. Okay, also, do not pay off loans. So if you have an auto loan that's got 3-4 months payments on it, paying that off could possibly drop your credit score because you're going to lose that trade line. So don't make major moves like that without consulting me. I'm happy to take a look at it and give you my opinion on it. So the other thing that we look at, or I should say that the credit scoring algorithms look at, is your frequency of new credit. So we don't want to apply for a lot of new credit at any given time, and the types of credit used. So credit diversity is what that is. So couple credit cards, auto loan, maybe personal line of credit, that's nice credit diversity. You can get a little bit of a lift out of your score there. So that's 10% of what goes into your credit score. Frequency of new credit is 10%, and the length of your credit history is 15%, and credit utilization is 30%. And then we talked about payment history being 35%. So those are the key things that go into the algorithms that actually generate your credit scores. All right. Next thing, how do we handle, sorry for bouncing around here, how do we handle some of the big questions? Sorry, wrong screen. Looks like my connection's a little choppy here, so I apologize for that. Okay, how do we handle major things on your credit? First and foremost, student loans always a conversation for people. Now, if your student loans are deferred, we're going to need to establish some type of payments, whether it's an income-based repayment plan or a actual repayment plan that's not based on your income. We need to have some type of payment for your student loans. They cannot be in forbearance. Now, most forbearance programs are starting to end. Okay, they're coming out of COVID, so you probably need to get some type of student loan repayment. If your student loans are in default, that's actually not such a bad thing. Usually if it's in default, that's a negative on your credit. That's probably dragging your scores down. But if you start payment arrangements, most student loan servicing companies, if you make your payments on time for 90 days, they will flip that default reporting to paid as agreed. So you can flip that negative information on your credit report to a positive just by making payment arrangements and making them on time for 90 days. That's how most of them are rolling right now. Now, if your loans are in forbearance or deferred or in default, you need to get some type of repayment plan. You can actually ask for an income-based repayment plan. Now, when people do that, sometimes these servicers will tell you, zero. And they're just saying, oh, your income's low enough where you don't need to make any payments. That's actually unacceptable in the mortgage world. They want to have some type of payment associated with it. So when you hear zero payments, you need to be insistent. You need to tell that person, hey, I'm tired of watching the interest increase on my student loan balances and see that limit go up. I want to actually make a payment, whether it's $10, $20, make something. I have some programs where we can use the income-based repayment plan. So I've had people that have had $100,000 in student loans, and we were able to get a payment plan of $20 a month. And I can use that $20 a month to qualify them for a house versus the traditional $500 or 0.5% of whatever the balance is. So, so there are ways and workarounds for student loans. Without fail, I always get a few people that reach out to me and say they've been denied at certain lenders for their student loans. There are always workarounds for student loans. I just need to know what your situation is so I can best coach you. Next thing, repossessions seem to be on the climb right now for a whole slew of reasons. People bought just less than quality cars on B lots, loss of jobs, whatever it is. So repossessions are becoming a little bit easier now. So I actually have a high percentage of people that have repossessions that are able to get approved with that baggage on their credit report, provided it's an isolated incident. So if the rest of your credit's in decent shape and that repossession was just something that maybe you co-signed for someone, maybe it was just you bought a lemon car and you couldn't find a way to get out of it. So that was it. The car died and you had to just give it back. So there are a lot of reasonable explanations that we can use. But if it's an isolated incident and the rest of your credit profile is in decent standing, then we can possibly get you approved with that repossession on your credit. I just need to know what your situation is to coach you. Sometimes we may have to do a payment arrangement. Okay. Every now, I just had somebody last week that their ex-husband actually defaulted on a loan that was in both of their names for a car, and there was just no getting around it. So what we did is made some payment arrangements with that creditor, and we were able to qualify with that particular payment. And then after closing, I'd be surprised if that person's actually going to make the payment. Okay. My goal is to get you into the house, give you the workaround or the tools to navigate around things, for lack of better words. So whether or not they make that payment, no judgment. Sometimes I feel people co-sign a little bit too freely, and that's exactly what happened in this case. So repossessions, that's how I would handle those. Bankruptcies are always an issue, and bankruptcies are climbing right now. So there are two types of bankruptcies. There's a Chapter 7 and there's a Chapter 13. Now, if you ever have the option, choose a Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is just wiping the slate clean. And once you do that, it's 2 years after the bankruptcy is discharged that we can get you financed. Typically, what we want to do is after that bankruptcy is discharged, we want to start building credit right away. It's actually fairly easy to build credit after a bankruptcy and get your credit scores up. It's not a challenge. I mean, I can get someone's credit score from bankruptcy discharge up above 700 in about a year and a half if they just implement some of the tools that I'm going to show you in a few minutes and make those payments on time. The algorithms that generate your credit scores are becoming smarter and smarter. They know that you just got a free pass on a bankruptcy. So as a result, if you're making your bills, your payments on time, your scores are going to climb very quickly. In the same breath, if you are late on any of those things after a bankruptcy, you're going to get hit harder and your scores are going to plummet just for the fact that those algorithms know you just got a pass on a bankruptcy. So it's crucial that you don't have any late payments after your bankruptcy on any of the new credit that we can help you obtain. Now, if you do a Chapter 13, that's reorganization. That's where you take the trustee takes all your bills, negotiates a balance, and you pay it off over 4, 5, 6 years, whatever the trustee negotiates with you. Try to avoid those. I mean, it's sometimes you have to do it. I get that, but it's a long road. It's a very long road. So with a Chapter 13, we can get you approved for financing after 1 year in the Chapter 13, provided you've made 12 months payments on time to the trustee. So we just get the trustee's approval. I've never been shot down for a trustee's approval to purchase a house. I've had one trustee push back a couple of years ago, and the attorney just filed a motion saying, hey, we can't find a rental that's even remotely close to the payment that we can get if we buy a house. And as a result, the trustee backed down and approved it. So, and this was actually a house in Waterford. This gentleman was looking at rental payments of, $2,000, $2,500 a month, and we could actually go buy a house for $1,700 a month using a down payment assistance program. So he was actually in Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and we were able to get him approved for it. So now, once you're done with the Chapter 13, the guidelines are kind of wacky still. There is some chatter about changing, but you do have to wait 2 years after the discharge of a Chapter 13, which doesn't make a lot of sense because you can act 1 year after while you're in it. So, but that's the guidelines that we're currently going by. Oops, sorry. And then the most important thing I want to talk about are collection accounts. Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. I actually got tripped up on this. So if you have old collections, okay, anything over 2 years old, please just leave them alone. There's no reason to pay them. What happens is, regardless of the size, okay, so if you have a small collection, let's just say forgot to pay a cable bill or turn in a box or remote and they hit you for a couple of $100, that collection account, once you pay it, if it's over 2 years and you pay it, it's going to show up on your credit next time it's reported, or next month, let's just say April 2025, it's going to show up as collection paid 2025. Your scores are going to go down. What you've done is you've reactivated that collection. So that's why I say if it's over 2 years old, leave it alone. We'll negotiate those balances if we have to after we get your approval. What we're trying to do is we want to get your credit score up, okay? So we don't want to even play with those. If your collections are less than 2 years, okay, then it's stuff we want to start addressing. If it's a medical bill, don't worry about that. Medical bills are not supposed to factor into your credit scores now. So if that's the case, no lenders are really counting those against you. Leave them alone. Unless they're big. If they're over, $2,500, we might have to address it, but for the most part, you can leave those alone. If you have collection accounts that are 1 to 2 years old, depending upon the size, those we want to take a closer look at and possibly run through a simulator to get a feel for how your credit score is going to react if you get repayment terms, if you pay it off, or, so we want to get a feel for that because that's a little bit unpredictable. If the collection accounts are less than a year old, then we want to possibly pay them off. If it's within the past 90 days, if you pay them off, you're going to get a bounce in your score. If it's 90 days to 1 year, we probably want to get some payment arrangements on those or try to get those paid off. Okay, so that's how we handle collection accounts. Okay, now I want to get into my steps on how I look at credit and how I get a quick bounce in your credit score. First thing we want to do is we want to get a copy of your credit report. You can do that through annualcreditreport.com. You do want to get all 3 credit scores if you can. If you have an option to pick up the FICO scores, please do that. The FICO scores are what we look at in the mortgage world. We want to determine what are your 2 highest scores and what type of work do we need to do to get a lift in those scores if we need it. So remember, we want to focus on those middle scores. So if the two middle scores are below the threshold that we want to shoot for, then we want to just isolate those two credit reports and whatever negative items are on there and what we can do to get them up. What we want to find out what's driving those low scores down. Are there late payments? Are there collection accounts? Is the credit utilization off? Okay, so we want to analyze all those open trade lines and try to look for some low-hanging fruit where we can get the biggest spike. We do need to have at least 2 or 3 trade lines, and a trade line is just a line of credit on your credit report. Doesn't matter whether they're new or old, we just have to have at least 2 to 3 things on there. If you don't, we can add alternative trade lines, and I'm going to go over those in just a few minutes. Alternative trade lines are just things that you pay that don't show up on your credit report. So a lot of times, if your scores are down in the 500s, we want to take your credit and run it through a credit auditor or simulator just to verify what the possible outcome is going to be and verify what the low-hanging fruit is. And if needed, we want to add credit. We want to, who knows, maybe we want to add a secured credit card, secured loan, maybe ask you to become an authorized user on someone's account. And if the credit scores are really low, like below 520 or so, we may want to send out some disputes. Okay, we may want to challenge some of that old baggage to see if we can get a lift there. All right. Here are the do's when it comes to tackling these things. Like I said, we want to get a copy of your credit report. If you don't want to go to free annual credit report, you can go to Credit Karma. Credit Karma will give you TransUnion, Equifax. I like Credit Karma a lot. I actually have a relationship with a lender at Belong Lending. They'll actually pull your mortgage credit report for you. They do charge. Okay, they charge $70. They'll get all 3 credit bureaus, all 3 credit reports and credit scores, and they'll run your credit through a simulator and tell you exactly what to do. I like that route better than going with some of the credit repair companies right now. Sometimes we just need to contact the creditors and see if they'll do an increase. So if you have let's say you have a credit card with a $300 limit and a $300 balance. If we can get them to increase your balance to $1,000 or your limit to $1,000, then now your utilization's at 30%. Chances are your credit scores are going to rebound and skyrocket from there. Maybe not skyrocket, but they'll probably go up a good 30 points or so. We want to pay down your credit card balances. Get your utilization down if you possibly can. I am finding more of a lift from reducing credit card utilization than I ever have before. And the only thing I can attribute it to is that the credit scoring algorithms are becoming smarter and smarter. I feel like they're almost in real time. So and what I mean by that is right now, credit card default rates and credit card utilization are just off the charts. Late payments for automobiles. I just saw subprime late payments are higher than they were, in the past 30 years. So, or from the time that they started reporting subprime. So things are not trending in a positive direction. So now, with regards to what I mean by the algorithms becoming smarter and more real time, it used to be where if somebody paid a credit card, let's just say you had a $300 limit and a $300 balance. It used to be if people paid that down below $90 or below 30%, I would say, hey, you get a good 20-point lift out of it. Now I'm seeing a 40 to 50-point lift. And the only thing I can attribute it to is that the credit card default rates are going up and you have the ability to pay your credit card down. You are a much better risk. So that's why I say they're becoming more of a real-time algorithms. So now, if you don't have credit cards or trade lines or things, sometimes we need to ask a family member or friend if you can be added as an authorized user. And, it used to be those are always uncomfortable conversations, but keep in mind, it's not that uncomfortable because you don't need money. Hey, ask your friend, hey, John, if you could do me a favor and I just need some help. I have a couple of trade lines on my credit report. I need one more trade line to get approved for a down payment assistance program to buy a house. I don't need any money. I just need an additional trade line. So is there any way you could possibly add me as an authorized user on one of your accounts? Not that terrible of a conversation to have with people. And who doesn't want to help out a friend or family member that way? I mean, you're not asking for money. You're just asking to be added to their credit card. Typically, it takes about 40, 30, 45, possibly as long as 60 days for that to show up. But I found 90% of the time, if it's a credit card that's been paid on time, open for many years, and has a low balance, you're going to get a pretty good lift out of that. Okay. I say 90% of the time because 10% of the time, some of the phone jockeys actually add you the right way, and it still works. It just doesn't work as well. So now, if you don't have that option, sometimes you want to open up a secured card or a secured loan. I'm going to go over those tools in just a couple of minutes. And if we need to add alternative trade lines, we can do that too. And an alternative trade line, your rent, your cell phone bills, car insurance, subscriptions. I'm going to give you a more comprehensive list in a moment, but we can actually take those items. If you paid them on time for the past 12 months, we can get those added to your credit report. So just another way to create those 2 to 3 trade lines if you don't have them. Now, if you have collection accounts over a couple of $1,000s, we might want to consider setting up some payment arrangements on those. I always tell people that's more of a touchy subject. We really should have a phone call to find out whether that's something that's worthwhile or not. Like I said, some of the algorithms that approve you for these loans are becoming more lenient on some of the bigger collections, depending upon what they are. Okay, the things that we don't want to do are don'ts. Please do not apply for new credit unless you know you're going to get it. Okay, so what happens is sometimes people go on some of the free sites, they apply for it, or they shotgun it out to several different places. And next thing you know, they've got 5 inquiries. And remember how I said these algorithms are getting smarter? If you all of a sudden have 5 credit card companies inquire into your credit, and over the next 60, 90 days, you're not issued new credit, it doesn't look real good. Okay. So it looks like you may not be the best credit risk. I can't say with a high degree of certainty it affects your credit scores any more than the inquiries, but it looks suspicious. Okay. So please don't apply for new credit. Anything that I tell you to apply for, like a secured card, secured loan, those types of things you are 99.99% likely to get. Okay. Also, don't blindly pay off your collections. I know we talked about that a little while ago, but I like to hammer that home. 2 years or older, leave it alone. Less than 2 years, case by case. Medical, don't worry about. 1 to 2 years, we're going to run through a simulator. 0 to 1 year, we want to address that on a case by case basis. Please don't pay off your credit card balances. Leave a few dollars on there. I find that for me, that's working out a little bit better. Don't pay off any loans early. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying don't make your payments, but if you have 3 months left on a car loan, don't pay it off early. That's not going to help you. And don't become an authorized user on a new account or account with any late payments. And whatever you do, please do not employ debt consolidation services. Those companies are surfacing right now, and they do not help you. Okay. They may seem like they will, but as far as the credit world, anytime you employ debt consolidation services, they look at you like you're in bankruptcy, like you're in Chapter 13 reorganization bankruptcy. So if you are that far in the hole where you need to do that, you might as well go into bankruptcy and at least have the protection of the bankruptcy courts. What happens is some of these consolidation companies, what they do is they sign you up. You make your payments to them for 6 months. The first 6 payments, for all of your bills, that's their profit. They keep that. And just about when your creditors have had enough of this and they're about to say, forget it, that's when they start making the payments. Okay. So I am not a fan of these debt consolidation companies. I think they're predatory. I think that, anyways, I won't go on anymore about that, but I'm just not fans of them at all. So, so to be in that type of situation and not have the protection of the bankruptcy court, I just don't think that's a wise way to go. So, now, next thing, credit building tools. Let's talk about how do we build things. First thing, secured card. I think you need to have some type of credit card in order to maneuver around the globe nowadays. So always a good idea. If you don't have a credit card, at the very least, pick up a secured card. Capital One is probably one of the more credible companies out there that offer it. You call them up, do it online. They'll send you a credit card with a $300 balance, or they'll send you a credit card. You actually have to send them $300 and then they'll fund the credit card. Okay. So you send them $300, they send you a credit card with a $300 limit. It's important you use that card once you receive it. The quicker you use it, the quicker they're going to get it set up on their system and report that data to the credit bureaus. Try not to charge more than 30% of the balance because we want to keep that utilization as low as possible and pay it down immediately. Okay. If you're tight for money, schedule a call for me. There are ways for us to find out what the reporting date is and pay it off right before, or pay it down right before they report it to the credit bureaus. That way you get the most favorable lift, and then can use it right after that. I mean, it's kind of a pay it down right before type of thing. I understand there's never extra money in my house. I assume it's probably the same way for yours. So happy to show you how to kind of play that game, for lack of better words. But secured credit cards are offered with a lot of credit unions. I know my credit union, Michigan First, does that. So there's a lot of good credit card companies out there that will offer secured cards. Next thing, secured loans. This is one of the best tools out there. I actually tell people, if you live in southeastern Michigan, there's a credit union I work with, Michigan First Credit Union. They offer what's called a secured loan. And there are a lot of other credit unions that do it. I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a few others, at least in southeastern Michigan. I don't know about across the country. But what it is, most of the credit unions, at least the two that I know of, they will charge you $25 to do this. So what you do is you go to the credit union. They're happy to open an account for you. You give them $525. They charge $25 to do this. They take the $500 that you give them and they lock that down in a savings account. So you can't touch it. It's going to look like it's yours and you can touch it, but you can't pull it out. At the same time, they're going to give you a loan for $500. So they're going to put $500 in your checking account. So it's actually going to show that you got $1,000, but you can only use the $500 in your checking. Then you're going to pay that $500 loan off over a 6-month period. So they'll take $80-something a month out of your checking account and pay that loan for 6 months. The nice thing with Michigan First Credit Union is they report that to your credit bureaus as a secured line of credit. One of the hardest things to get is a personal line of credit. So most of the people that I work with, I'm seeing their scores go up 40 to 60 points just from that one maneuver. By the way, on the secured credit card, you're going to find your scores are going to go up 20 to 30 points. So these are great, great credit building tools. And there's credit diversity. You got a credit card, you got a personal loan of credit. You have that with an auto loan, great credit diversity. Okay. So secured loans, I like Michigan First Credit Union for this. I just know because I've seen people actually get 50 to 70 points, no problem, using this. Next one I want to talk about, becoming an authorized user. Like I said earlier, it works about 90% of the time. Technically, about 15, 20 years ago, they made some changes where they were supposed to report your start date on the credit card as of the date that you're added to the account. Now, most of the credit card companies, this is a manual entry. So they don't do that. So what happens is the start date for the credit card, 90% of the time, is when the original person opened it. They don't change it. Okay. Picture you're calling a call center to get added to a credit card. Those guys are all timed right now. They're under pressure to do this as quickly as possible. So a manual entry like adding the date of when the card was opened, not when you were added, a lot of times they don't do it. And when they don't do it, that's what gives you the big lift. Okay, you'll still get a lift being added. So if somebody does do it the right way, but we want to make sure that you are added to a seasoned account, an old account with a low balance, low utilization, and good payment history. Next item, alternative trade lines. Okay, so with regards to alternative trade lines, you can get things added like rent, auto insurance, PO box payments, storage unit payments, cable bills, cell phone bills, renter's insurance, utility bills, monthly subscriptions, Netflix, gaming, gym memberships. About 6 months ago, I had a gentleman that he had no credit. So what we were able to do is we had him added to his future mother-in-law's credit card and added several gaming subscriptions. He was a gamer. He's sitting in his future mother-in-law's basement gaming, Netflix, PlayStation, Netflix. He was gaming with PlayStation and Xbox, I think were the two. So what we do with these is we take the past 12 months payments and get that, as long as it's been paid on time, we take that proof of that and send it to the credit bureaus and we have this information added for you. Now, from there, we get a trade line out of it. Okay, so those are alternative trade lines. Credit monitoring services. These are something I believe in. They're free. I personally like Credit Karma. They'll give you TransUnion and Equifax. And I also like Experian. Okay, if you go to those two platforms, you'll get all three credit bureaus. It's important that we know what things are on your credit. It's not going to give you the FICO scoring models. I mean, the Experian one will if you pay for it. But for the most part, it's going to give us all the data and information that we need to understand your credit and for me to help coach you on how to manipulate those scores. Okay. So it's important that you subscribe to a couple of those. Like I said, Experian and Credit Karma are my two choices there. Now, credit restoration services. This is always a question. Right now, you're not hearing about a lot of credit restoration services, even though I'm finding the average credit scores are dropping. And the reason is they just don't have the effect that they used to. Okay. It used to be where these worked quite well. They don't work as well anymore. Okay. So if your credit's, below 520, yes, it might be worthwhile signing up for one of these for maybe a couple of months. But I find some of these companies are kind of like hamster wheels. You get on it and it never stops. Okay. So basically what they do is they try to take advantage of a loophole in the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And what that loophole is that when you dispute something on your credit, the credit bureaus have 30 days to investigate and report back to you. Okay. It used to be where they couldn't make it. They couldn't make that timeline. And 30% of the time, they would have to remove the information from your credit report. Well, everything's digital now, and that timeline is a lot easier for them to make. So I find that these services don't have as much benefit as they used to. The other thing is, a lot of times I find that these companies challenge too many things at once. Okay. The Fair Credit Reporting Act says that the credit bureaus don't have to investigate your request if they think it's frivolous. So if they get a form letter from National Credit Care that says, John's challenging these 10 things on his credit, the credit bureaus are going to go, no way. We've seen this letter 1,000 times. chances are all 10 things are not wrong, and they have the ability to just toss it aside. They don't even have to respond to you. Sometimes, if they don't, sometimes they'll respond to you and say, "Oh, hey, John, we feel that you may be engaging the services of a credit repair company, and we're not sure if this is a legal or whether you're maybe falling for a scam." Things, all kinds of stall tactics. Okay, so you got to be prepared for it. So for those reasons, these credit restoration companies are not as beneficial as they used to be. What I tell people is give me a call, let me learn your situation. I'll give you my input, whether it's worthwhile. I usually find if your scores are below 500, this may not be a bad way to go. Okay. Just for your information, you can go into Credit Karma and you can click on things and dispute it through Credit Karma. Actually, I've had people that have had success with that. Not a lot, but hey, if you've got 5 negative things and you click on 5 and one of those things is gone in 30 days, doesn't hurt to do it. Okay. So, but do me a favor, don't dispute more than, I would say, 5. Try to keep it to 3, because if you start disputing everything and there's more than 5, I find that they realize that you're just making a frivolous claim. Okay. All right. Where do we go from here? I always tell people, schedule a call with me. I'm always happy to learn your situation, step into your shoes, and tell you exactly what I do. Okay. Let me give you my contact information. I'm going to put this in the chat box here. And for those of you that are watching this at a later time, just go to the comments at the comments area. We'll try to put a link in the comments area, but click on more and you'll find my information to get a hold of me where you can book a call. Okay. And there we go. Okay. So here is a link to my, oops, wrong link there. And okay. Here is a link to my calendar, no down payment required.org/book. That's where you can reach me. That's my direct link to my calendar. I always invite people to schedule calls with me. Let me dive into your world and give you my input and point you in the right direction. Now, for those of you that are just stumbling across this for some type of help with boosting your credit, I think that's great. Always happy to help people pay it forward. But like I said, this is a follow-up webinar to the program that I help people with, how to purchase a home with very little money out of pocket, how to tap into down payment assistance programs and grants. And just to give you a feel for it, here's a house. Rich purchased this house in Taylor for $112,000. At the time of closing, he only needed $100 out of pocket. So for $1,100, he was able to get into this house using a down payment assistance of $7,500 and $2,500 in seller concessions. I go over several scenarios like this in my webinar. So you can register for that at nodownpaymentrequired.org. So let me enter this, and there you go. I'll put a link to this in the area as well. Wow, same thing came up. Book. Let me go back here. And let's try this again. www.nodownpayment.com. Oops. And let me just see here. Let's get this. Sorry, for some reason my link isn't working here. Copy. And let's go back. There you go. No down payment required.org. Oh, I put com. So that's why it wasn't working. So no down payment required.org. That's a direct link to register for my next webinar, which will be in a couple of weeks. Right now is the 29th. I have yet to schedule this, the 29th of March, 2025. And I tend to schedule them a couple weeks apart. So it'll be whatever that works out to, the 12th, I think. Let me just get a calendar here. Yeah, sorry, tough connection right now. Anyways, so register for my no down payment required webinar, and where I teach you the top ways to purchase with no money down using down payment assistance programs and grants. So I help connect renters with, like I said, down payment assistance and grant programs to become homeowners. So that is my goal. So where do we go from here? Hey, that webinar is it. No down payment required.org. Oh, let me give you my phone number. That's 248-252-7283. This is my cell phone number. Easiest way to get a hold of me. I'll be the first to admit I'm a phone jockey. I spend a lot of hours on the phone. So if I don't answer, please leave a message or shoot me a text, and I will give you a call between calls. So any questions out there? All right. Good. Well, I thank you all very much for attending this evening. Yes, I'll be happy to schedule a private call with you. Yep, go right ahead. Good. If you have any questions, please never hesitate to reach out to me. Always happy to learn your situation, put myself in your shoes. You've got the link to my calendar. You've got my phone number. Hope our paths cross again soon. Take care. Have a great day, everyone.